Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video, I got some Hydra content for you guys. It's going to be based around my Trunda team that I use on normal and hard difficulty. I know obviously Trunda is the linchpin for a lot of high damage teams out there, but you know, for a beginner or a mid-game player that's kind of just going along with whatever teams that they have and champions that they have, just having a Trunda and not knowing what to do with them won't yield you the best results. So hopefully in this video I can go over some tips and strategies that help you guys build a team that kind of synergizes together and makes it all come together coherently so that your Trunda can deal as much damage as possible. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so this is the team that I'm running for my best normal and hard difficulty Hydra runs. So obviously I have the Trunda, which is the most important part of this team. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to put up the numbers that I'm able to. There's some key members in this team that make it function very well. I'm by no means an expert in building these type of teams, but this team works very well and very consistently for me. I think for what I have put into it in terms of gear investment and what for example, what blessings they have and all that stuff. In terms of total investment, I think the team works quite well and damage output is quite decent. But I'm sure there are ways to optimize this team for sure. So the key thing here is obviously Trunda. You need your defense down champion. Ideally, it's Lydia because Lydia does bring defense down and weaken. She is void affinity as well, and she brings the speed up. So that's very, very important. You still need the required buffs and debuffs against the Hydras to maximize the amount of turns your team takes. So Arbiter is also a very easy candidate here. She brings a turn meter boost, so your team gets more turns. She brings attack up. She also brings a backup revive and a single target weaken, as well as a A2 that can reduce the duration of enemy buffs. So all of it's very, very good. She basically speeds up your team, gives you a backup revive, and then the all-important attack up. So the other champions here, I think these three are probably irreplaceable. Trunda, Arbiter, and then the Lydia. Maybe Suzanne can come in here for Arbiter, of course, but the other champions here, I think you can find some subs for. So Kymar here, Kymar comes in for the reset, so resetting your team's key cooldowns. So basically, you can get back to Trunda's big slams more frequently. He also brings like a little bit of poison, so that's a little bit of damage, and then he has a little bit. He has a strip as well, so just in case some of the heads start getting out of control, the strip can actually really help you. Shamail is definitely a flex spot. You can use a lot of different champions in Shamail's spot. I use Shamail because he makes the run very consistent, especially when the head of Torment pops out. So he doesn't. You can put somebody else here, but then your team might suffer a little bit against the head of Torment, and it might throw off the order of things. And then you have Nia here, which is another skill cooldown reset or reduction type of champion. She also brings a very important A1 AoE decreased speed, which is really, really good, obviously, at keeping the Hydras slower so that your team takes more turns, therefore you deal more damage. So let's go over the gear on some of these champions, and then I'll try to explain a little bit further. So we have Arbiter here. Arbiter is just in my normal arena gear. She's just going to be going fast. Coming up next, we have Lydia. Lydia should be in a hex set for this type of team. You could also put her in 9-piece per protection set. So protection basically gives you additional damage here. Allies deal 5% more damage for each buff placed by the wearer. So Lydia places speed, increased speed, and then strengthen, so she's going to boost the damage of your champions by 10%. So she's a good candidate for 9-piece protection if you have it. If not, you put her in a hex set for this team. Next up, we have White Dry Nia. She's an excellent epic champion. She brings, like I said, the A1 AoE decreased speed, 50% chance to lay it down. Very, very good. She also brings a single target skill reduction. So obviously use that on Trunda, or use that on Arbiter if you need a revive, for example, or use that on Lydia if you need the defense down and weaken. Very, very good champion. She also brings like an ally protection in case your team is in really hot water. And I have her in a curse set for the additional hex. Make her fast as possible with some survivability and enough accuracy to land her debuffs. Yeah, great candidate for a hex set. You'll find often that she prioritizes this very often. You won't have a lot of opportunity to use the A1, but having her in the hex set is a nice backup to apply hex. Next up, we have Shamail. I have Shamail in a provoke set. Provoke is basically just to help out against the Head of Decay, just in case the Head of Decay isn't going to go down immediately from the Trunda blast. So I do have the backup provoke from the Shamail. You could gear him out in full damage. I have him in a little bit of damage, some survivability as well. But he's mainly here to take care of the Head of Torment, the Fears, and to provoke once in a while. His damage is not super relevant, but he chips in a little bit. Next up, we have Kymar. This is my Kymar I use basically in every single area of the game. I don't change his build for anything. As you can clearly see, it's a little bit of a weird build, I think. It has like a shield ring, and then it has the refresh accessories. But basically, Reflex gives him the most opportunity to basically get most of it, more Seal of Magic. So the more Seal of Magic he gets, the more resets your team get, the more cycles of the Trunda big slams, the A2s. So having him in Reflex really, really helps. Having him with refresh accessories obviously really help as well. You don't need him to have max crit rate or anything like that, but the crit rate actually gives him some poisons to help out with some damage. Some accuracy to land his debuffs is all you really need. He also has a A2 strip, so you do need some accuracy for that as well. For blessings for these champions, you could add cruelty to Kymar. For Nia, cruelty also works. I don't have any blessings on Nia. I have brimstone on like Lydia, for example, but brimstone's not going to be a big part of your damage. All your damage is going to come from either hex or Trunda. So I'm going to show you guys my Trunda. So here are the stats on my Trunda. They could be a little bit better, but I think it's a pretty good mix of survivability and speed. She, obviously could use some more crit damage. She only has 1-star blessing on her. But these are the total stats on my Trunda. About 8k attack and about 270 crit damage. I have Heaven Cast on her for the increased damage per buff. I believe at 6-star using something like Crushing, I think Crushing Rend deals the most damage at Crushing Rend I think deals the most damage at 6-star, where you ignore more of the defense. So definitely consider that if you have a 6-star Trunda. Don't need any accuracy on her, of course. But yeah, so that's going to be basically what my team consists of. There is a bit of a rotation here. So obviously you want Lydia to go before Trunda in terms of speed order, because you want her to lay the defense down and weaken before Trunda gets to go. Arbor should be going obviously before everybody, because she should be probably in your fastest gear, and then obviously you want her increase attack before Trunda places her blast. Nia similarly could be placed before Trunda so that she can place the hex. However, having her after Trunda also makes sense too, because she can place the reset on her. Kymar as a faster champion makes a lot of sense. My Kymar is only 260 speed, so he doesn't necessarily need to be that fast, but I think if he was a bit faster, he would get more resets, and then you start doing more damage. The rotation is actually really nice once you get into it. So once you guys start seeing the run that this produces, it actually flows quite well. And again, in terms of like what you guys can do for your own accounts, don't be too worried about how much stats you can put out or how fast your champions are, because you can just do the lower difficulty, do a normal difficulty, and then you'll pump out tons of damage anyways, as long as you have your this type of team that synergizes really well together. So don't worry too much about meeting these particular stats, as long as you have the champions that can kind of synergize well together. Like I said, Lydia, Arbiter, Trunda, maybe 2 reset champions, and then 1 flex champion. So the flex champion basically just covers any kind of discrepancy, like deficiency that your team has. You could also run a second Trunda here. If you have 2 Trundas, that's obviously good as well. If you had Kymar can't reset himself, so the best situation here is having 2 Yumikos. 2 Yumikos is how most of the big damage teams can utilize the Trunda and make her go kind of crazy. But if you have 2 Trundas and 2 resets, that works very fine. You could even use Renegade instead of Kymar here. Kymar is obviously better than Renegade because it's a full reset. You could even use 2 Nias, and then it's not going to be as good as Kymar plus Nia, but 2 Nias also work as well. So there's many different combinations, but for the most part, it all stems around the AoE decreased defense, and then some kind of increased attack champion, and of course, Trunda. For me personally, Nia really makes this team come together because she brings the AoE decreased speed, which allows her to be placed in a curse set to apply Hex as well as backup Hex champion. And of course, she brings other utility like the ally protection, as well as the single target cleanse, and then the reset, which is very nice as well. So as for total damage from this team, I'm going to show you guys, this is my best normal run so far, about 2.5 billion damage from this team. You see Trunda here doing about 1.9 billion damage by herself. Lydia with the probably the Brimstone and the Hex applying 250 million. Nia 150 million basically just from the Hex set herself. Shamail chipping in with some damage as well, 100 million here just from raw damage. And of course, Kymar comes in here with 27 million damage from, I assume, poisons, because he doesn't have War Master or anything like that. So this was on normal. This was just basically me like learning the ropes, the rotation and everything like that. It's a manual run. It could run auto, but the performance is going to be varied. But this is, in the grand scheme of things, this damage is pretty small, obviously, compared to like some really crazy teams out there. But for me, I just try to do the best that I can, try to help out my clan, chip in whatever damage I can put in there. I mean, it's only 2.5 billion. It's probably less than 1% of what my clan can actually produce, which is pretty insane. But I try my best to chip in here. And I'll show you guys a run that I did on hard. So this is one of my first runs on hard, just to see if I can put out comparable damage as normal so I can get the higher chest. So we'll jump into that run right now. All right, so here's the run. So I'm just going to try to talk over a little bit and then just let it go. All right, so some gameplay tips I can provide for you guys for like this type of team, I guess, is basically you want your Trunda A2 to be applied to a decapitated head if possible, and ideally you want the other heads to have the proper debuffs, so defense down and Hex, so that when the Trunda A2 deals damage to the decapitated head, all the damage is spread throughout the other heads, and then you'll likely blow them all up. So that's kind of how it goes. On normal, it's a lot easier to blow them up so that your Trunda doesn't need to be as strong, obviously. Another tip and pointer here is basically if you run into the poison head, for example, make sure you place a single block buff on the poison head so that if the poison cloud is applied to the rest of the hydras, you can at least try to kill the poison hydra to remove all the poison clouds from the other hydra heads. So that's one way to kind of like reduce the risk of the poison cloud totally ruining your day. Obviously, you want to target the head of mischief as often as possible. It's the weakest head in terms of overall defense and HP, so it's the easiest to kill. Therefore, it also transfers the most damage to all the other heads. So whenever possible, you want to go after the head of mischief. However, you need Hex to be applied to it to target it properly. This is the best case scenario when all 4 heads are decapitated. You want to apply your debuffs right away, and then just make sure your Trunda starts dealing the big damage with her A2. Another strategy is if you have the head of mischief out and you're able to kill the other heads first, try to kill the other heads, decapitate them, and then kill the head of mischief, so that the head of mischief will push back the turn meter on all the decapitated heads, so that you have more turns, more time to deal damage against decapitated heads. All right, so those are just some tips that I basically learned along the way. Obviously, I'm not an insane expert on this. I've just recently got this team running, and it runs super solid. So I just wanted to share with you guys my experience with it, some things that I've learned, and hopefully this inspires or helps some of you guys that haven't really dabbled too much with Trunda teams. Helped you guys out, and maybe you guys can push some good damage, get some better rewards, help your clan out, and everyone will be happy and jolly, right? But anyways, guys, I'm gonna let this run. Feel free to stay to the end. This is my best hard run, so you guys can see the damage at the end, see what this team is actually capable of. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video. For the sake of video time, I'm just going to fast forward the bulk of it. It's a pretty long run. It's about 90 minutes. But I want to show you guys the end result here.